to our Shabbat Evening Service, and to welcome you here with the words Bruchim Habaim to the Rabbi Louis J. Siegel Sanctuary in Teaneck, New Jersey. I have just a couple of notes before we begin our service together. First of all, the Seder that we use is Mishkan Tefillah. If you're joining us here in the sanctuary, you should be able to find a copy of Mishkan Tefillah near your seat. And if you are joining us on live stream, if you own or have borrowed a copy of Mishkan Tefillah, now is the perfect time to bring it to your computer or your screen. And if you don't have a copy of Mishkan Tefillah, you can still access one, preferably on a second device, by going to our live stream page, emeth.org/livestream, scrolling down to where it says to access the Seder prayer book, and then clicking on the link for Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat weekdays and festivals. That will open up a new page, our Seder in flipbook format, which will enable you to follow along with each and every song and prayer and page number in our service. Also, if you're watching us on live stream, I hope you'll take a moment right now to post something in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform, perhaps your name, your location, a Shabbat greeting. That way others who are watching with you will know that they are not alone and you are not alone, and that we are forming bonds of virtual community even as we are separated and watching on live stream together. This Shabbat is known in our tradition as Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of song. It has earned this name because this week's Torah portion has the Shirat Hayam, the song that the Israelites sang when they crossed through the Red Sea in the culmination of the Exodus story. Shabbat Shirah is often an occasion to bring new, different, and more difficult music to the worship service. Indeed, Kol Emeth, our adult choir, had been preparing to do just that at this evening service. Unfortunately, COVID-19, as in so many cases these days, has forced a change of plans. Kol Emeth will not be singing as a unit, but several members of Kol Emeth are here in the sanctuary, and they will be lending their voices to our service as individuals or in duet with Cantor Tillam. We look forward to the time when we can reschedule Kol Emeth, but in the meantime, we hope the special music of this evening service will help lift your soul in prayer. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge those members of our congregation who have made it here into the sanctuary on a very cold evening, and to say Bruchim Habaim to you. Welcome to our service. And we begin our service now on page 120 of Mishkan Tefillah with the lighting of our Shabbat candles, which is preceded by an opening reading. The honor of the Shabbat candles this evening goes to Andrea Winters.
These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illume our uncertain steps. Flames purify and renew, soften and refine. They brighten and make warm. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
You have it. Excellent. Our service continues now with our Kiddush for Shabbat evening, which is found on page 123, preceded by an opening reading. Please rise if you are able for the Kiddush. The honor of the Kiddush this evening goes to Sam Groner.
As evening falls, we give thanks to the blessings of the past week, for life and strength, for work and rest, for home, love, and community. As we enjoy this bounty, may we be inspired to bring goodness into the lives of others. We raise a cup of wine in gratitude for the miracle of creation and for the gift of this day of rest. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'vratzon hinchilanu. זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
Please be seated. We turn now to page 124 as we read together in English. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding them to a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. We turn now to page 138 of our Seder. On page 138, we find our opening song. Please join with Cantor Tillum as together we sing Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla. Shamor v'zach darri kivarech kumi yori uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alaych nigla lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela.
We rise and face the door to welcome the Shabbat bride.
Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha uv'tzala toch emunei am segula boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela.
Please be seated. We turn now in our Siddur to page 140. In honor of Shabbat Shirah, I thought that we would together offer Psalm 92, which is known by its first line as a song for Shabbat. And so I invite you to read with me in English near the bottom of the page. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm, they thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no wrong. We continue now with the Chatzi Kaddish, which is found on page 144.
יתקדר ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה קירותי וימלך מלכותי בחייכון וביום איכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו להאמין כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירה לעולמה והימרו Amen.
Please rise if you are able for Baruch Hu. The Baruch Hu is found on page 146.
La
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna mishanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtsono. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch Elenu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We turn to page 150 and we read together in English. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
In just a moment, we will sing Mi Chamocha, the song which is taken from this week's Torah portion from Shirat Hayam. But on page 157, we have an introductory reading. It is meant to be a reading of Geulah, which acknowledges God's role in our redemption. But I like this reading especially on this day because it helps us contextualize the song in its original context, standing on the shores, and yet it does much more than that because it helps connect our moment in time to that moment at the shores of the sea. It helps connect our song to the song our ancestors sang. And so I invite you, in preparation for Mi Chamocha, to read with me at the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Bim bam, ya bye 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 bye, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bye, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bye, ya bye bye bim bam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi מלכותך ובניך בוקי הים לפני משה זה אלי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ביי 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 bim bam ya bye 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 ya bye bye bim bam ya bye 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 ya bye bye bim bam ya bye 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 ya bye bye bim bam ונאמר כי בא אדוני את יעקב גלומר חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We continue reading together at the top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom Elenu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג עם ומקדשי כולם ישמעו ויתענגו מטובך ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג חמדת ימים אותו קראת זכר למעשה בראשית ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג.
Our service continues now with the tefillah, which is found in the Siddur on page 164. Please rise if you are able for the tefillah.
ופי יגיד תהילתך ענני נני אדוני ענני נני שפתי תפתח ענני נני ופי יגיד ופי יגיד תהילתך ענני נני אדוני ענני נני שפתי תפתח ענני נני ופי יגיד ופי יגיד תהילתך ברוך אתה אדוני Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaHanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim, Tovim V'Konei Akol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, Mevi Geulah Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer, Mashiach Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor L'Olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atarav Le'Oshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Solemech Noflim Verofech Olim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mikayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Micham Bocha Bal Gevurot, U'Mido Melech, Melech Memit U'Mechayeh, U'Matmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atah L'Chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayei Akol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kedoshim B'chol Yom Yehallelcha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. We turn to page 175 and we read together in English in the middle of the page. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance, and let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch Atah Adonai, she'otcha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. We continue now with a prayer for peace, which is found in Mishkan Tefillah on page 179. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch Atah Adonai Hamvarech et Amo Yisrael. Ba Shalom. We take a moment now for Tfilat Halev, the opportunity to offer to God the prayer of our hearts. Inspirational readings are found on pages 180 and 181. We continue now with our service for the reading of the Torah, Seder Kriyata Torah, which is found in the Siddur beginning on page 363. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. We continue in the middle of the next page. Please rise.
Shichem useu pitrei olam yava melech hakavod milz melech hakavod Adonai tzvaot u'melech hakavod
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema, Gadol Adonai Iti, Adonai Shema Yachdav, Lecha Adonai Hagidin, Yagiver, Yativer, Yanitzach V'hod, Ki chor b'shamayim uva'aretz, Ki chor b'shamayim uva'aretz, Lecha Adonai HaMelech, Yadei Nasi,
Please be seated. Well, as we have mentioned already, this is the Torah portion with Shirat Hayam. I don't think that we've actually mentioned the name of the Torah portion yet in this service. It is Parshat Beshalach. And so in just a minute, Cantor Tillam is going to chant Shirat Hayam using the special melody for this section only. She'll begin with Exodus chapter 15, verse 1. If you are here in the sanctuary, you can find the Torah portion beginning on page 488. And if you are watching us on live stream and you have a copy of the revised Torah commentary, you can find Exodus 15, verse 1 on page 438 to 39. It's kind of a special two-page spread format there in the revised Torah commentary. And as we're preparing to hear the words of Shirat Hayam, I think it's important to note that Moses leads the singing in verse 1. And then after he's introduced and he starts the first line, he sings the whole song. And then when he's done, it says that Miriam takes a timbrel in her hand and she leads the women in singing. And the first line is repeated. Rashi says that the first line is meant to represent the whole song, that the Torah just doesn't repeat the whole song again. It's quite long, but that first line is symbolic or representative of the whole song that Miriam led for the women, with one exception. And that's the first word. So when the cantor chants from verse 1, Moses says, Ashira, I will sing. And the presumption is that if Moses sings, everyone sings. But when Miriam, at the end of the chapter, does basically the same thing, the word is not Ashira, I will sing. Instead, the word is Shiru. Sing. It is a command. It is an invitation to everyone within earshot to sing with her. And so we sort of have two different, whether it's two different ways to get people to sing or two different forms of leadership, we have these two parallel stories of the men and the women, and so much similarity in terms of how they express their joy and their gratitude to God, and yet there is that difference of the one word, I will sing, versus sing with me. You can, once again, page 488, or page 438 and 39, if you're watching at home, as we continue with Shirat Hayam. To honor the Torah, we call upon Jill and Barry Cantor.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim, V'natan Lanu Et Torto. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Amen. Az Yashir Moshe Uvnei Yisrael et hashira hazot l'Adonai vayomru lemor ashira l'Adonai ki golka sus v'rachva rama vayam aziv zimrat ya vayili lishua zeli v'anvehu Elohei aviv v'romamenhu Adonai ish milchama, Adonai shemo, marchvot paro, v'chelo yara vayam, umivchor shlishav, tubu v'yam suf, tehomot yichasayumu yirdu v'im solot, kmo aven, yemincha Adonai nedari b'koach, yemincha Adonai tira toyev, Uverov goncha teras kamecha tishalech charoncha yochlei mokakash uveruach apecha nermumayim nitzvu chmonei nozlim kafu teamot belevi yam amar oyev erdov asig achalek shalal Timla emo nafshi ari chervi tori shemo yadi nashav taveruchacha kisamo yam tzalalu kelferet b'mayim adirim michamocha ba'elim Adonai mikamocha nedar b'kodesh norati hilot o seifele
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Have a seat right behind me. This time our thoughts turn to those in need of healing as we prepare to offer a mishaberach for healing, which is found in Mishkan Tefillah on page 371. If you are watching us on live stream and you are thinking of someone in need of healing, I invite you to share the name of your loved one in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. Similarly, if you are here in the sanctuary and you are thinking of someone in need of healing, I invite you to share the name of your loved one out loud or in your heart. The names of the members of our congregation and their loved ones for whom we pray for healing will be seen on your screen as we continue now with the singing of the Mishaberach.
Mikol the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We continue now with the lifting and dressing of the Torah, which is found at the bottom of page 370. Please rise if you are able for Hagba and Galila.
V'zot ha'Torah asher tzam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael, al pi Adonai biyad Moshe. Yalalai lai 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 lai. Yalalai lai 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 lai. Yalalai lai 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 lai. Yalalai lai lai lai. Yalalai lai lai lai. Yai lai lai yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai.
We remain standing as we prepare to return the Torah to the Ark. We turn to page 374. Yehalalu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado.
Hodol eretz v'shamayim v'yarem keren le'amor tehila l'chol hasidav libnei Yisrael am kirocho. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ki lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al tazovu. Imhi lama chazikim ba v'tam meushar deracham v'chol netivotah shalom hashiveni Adonai elecha v'nashuva Haidish Yameinu Haidish Yameinu Kikedem.
Please be seated. This evening, we as a congregation celebrate Andrew Arroyo's completion of his process of converting to Judaism. Andrew is well known to members of our congregation who attend Friday night services or Shabbat morning Torah study regularly. His devotion and curiosity reflect the meaning that participating at Temple Emeth has brought to him. Andrew began his journey to Judaism many years ago, having been embraced by a Jewish family when he was a teenager. His relationship to his husband, Scott Siskind, has helped anchor him in our tradition and learn the beauty of our rituals and our community. Though the support of loved ones is wonderful to have when one considers converting, ultimately, conversion to Judaism must be an individual choice made on one's own terms. Andrew has pursued this path for several years, and since he was always curious to learn more, while qualified to complete the process, he never seemed to be in a hurry to do so. A health scare last year made him realize that in order to be buried as a Jew, one must live as a Jew. And so last month, Andrew fulfilled the 3 requirements for conversion. He had a Beit Din interview, he had Hatafat Dam Brit, the fulfillment of the covenant with Abraham, and he immersed in the living waters of the mikveh. Though not required by Jewish law, but it's required by me, Andrew also wrote a personal statement about his journey to Judaism, which I would like to quote at this time. And while I'm reading the quote, Andrew, why don't you come on up for your part in this ceremony. Andrew wrote in his statement, "Following my wedding to Scott and my emergency open heart surgery 6 years ago, I started looking into a temple that would accept Scott and I into their congregation. I was very pleased to find Temple Emeth through our friend Janice Purcell. May her soul rest in peace. After contacting the temple, I had the pleasure of meeting with Rabbi Stephen Serbu and felt very welcomed into their congregation. Scott and I have been active members for the past 5+ years. Cantor Tillam and Rabbi Serbu have always been extremely welcoming and warm to both Scott and I, making us both feel very welcomed into the Jewish faith. This was the starting point to making my journey to Judaism complete." Anyone who knows Andrew knows he will be a wonderful addition to the Jewish people. I now welcome him to the bima to offer a public affirmation of his faith. Okay, so you can step up to the microphone. You can put my mask on, so you can take your mask off to read this. And I'm going to read beginning right there.
Of my own free will, I choose to enter the eternal covenant between God and the people of Israel, and to become a Jew. I accept Judaism to the exclusion of all other religions, faiths, and practices. Under all circumstances, I will be loyal to the Jewish people and to Judaism. I promise to establish a Jewish home and to participate actively in the life of the synagogue and of the Jewish community. I commit myself to the pursuit of Torah and Jewish knowledge. If I should be blessed with children, I would promise to raise them as a Jew.
In honor of this momentous occasion in Andrew's life, we invite him to the open ark. I ask everyone to please rise. Come join us. Okay, right there is perfect. This moment is a continuation of a tradition that was begun by Ruth, who, according to tradition, was the first convert to Judaism. And so as Andrew walks in the footsteps of Ruth, I invite you to read the words of Ruth from the book of Ruth.
Entreat me not to leave you or to return from following after you, for wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried.
Andrew, you stand before the open ark and before the commanding presence of the Torah, the Jewish people's most cherished treasure. It has led us on the way and guided us ever since we received it at Sinai. It has been carried during the times of our greatest rejoicing and when we fled from burning synagogues and villages. I place the Torah in your arms. Take the Torah to your heart now as you recite the Shema, the words on the lips of the Jew until the moment of death, the affirmation that has sustained the Jewish people in life since our beginnings. Okay, so the Shema is right here. Shema Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ehad.
I can't find the right page, so I'm going to make it up. Andrew, you are known to your friends and family as Andrew Arroyo, but as part of this process, you have chosen a Hebrew name, your Hebrew name of Avraham, which is to honor Scott's father, and a beautiful way to dedicate yourself to the family that you have chosen to build and to the legacy that you've inherited from Scott's family. And so, as you now bear the name Andrew Arroyo, similarly, among the Jewish people, you bear the name Avraham ben Avraham Avinu v'Sara Imenu, Avraham, the son of Abraham, our father, and Sarah, our mother. May it be a name that is always respected and cherished among the people of Israel. Now, in honor of this wonderful milestone, Cantor Tillman and I will offer this blessing. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine down upon you, and may God be gracious to you. May God's Spirit lift you up, and may God give you shalom, the gift of peace, now and always. And let us say, Amen. In honor of this special occasion, we join together in the blessing for all special occasions. We'll close the ark so that, Andrew, you can turn around and see the community that supports and celebrates with you at this time as we join in singing the Shechiani.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu azman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu azman
Please join me in wishing Andrew and Scott Mazel Tov.
Siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov, Elenu. Siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov, Elenu.
be seated. Ashir al Adonai ki ga'o ga'a, sus v'roch bo rama vayam. I will sing to the Eternal, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. The opening verses of Shirat Hayam introduce it as an ode to God, a victory song, and a graphic retelling of the Exodus story. More generally, Shirat Hayam is an example of how music and the act of singing can unify a disparate group of people. Remember that not long before the Israelites sang the song, they cry out in defiance to Moses. Was it for want of graves in Egypt that you brought us to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? A scene that was panic bordering on chaos turns to celebration, fortified by song. What they witnessed is the new articulation of their relationship with God, and the joy they express is the beginning of their new identity as a free people. Over the course of this long weekend, as an American Jewish community, we will mark two more holidays. Tu B'Shvat is the new year of the trees, an opportunity to celebrate life when the winter landscape is hibernating. Just as music helped define the importance of the Exodus to the Israelites, music, much of which is based in biblical verses, can also shape our relationship with trees. When we put the Torah back into the ark a moment ago, we sang Eitz Chaim Hi. It is a tree of life to all who hold it fast, and all of its supporters are happy. That is a quote from the book of Proverbs, reminding us that trees in so many ways symbolize life, as does the Torah. Psalm 92, also known as the Song for the Sabbath Day, which we read at the beginning of the service, includes the verse, Tzadik katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yiskeh. The righteous shall blossom like the date palm, shall flourish like the cedar of Lebanon. This association of the palm with justice likely harkens back to the time when judges, such as Deborah, who is featured in this week's Haftarah portion, would hold court in the shade of a palm tree. The cedar is a symbol of strength used in the construction of Solomon's temple. The cool mountain air of Lebanon allowed the trees to grow to heights unparalleled in most of Israel. The prophet Micah's words have also been made into a song that was very popular when I went to camp. Micah offers a vision for peace that is similar to that of Isaiah's, where swords shall be beaten into plowshares. He then continues with an image of a person enjoying that peace. V'yashvu ish tachat gafno, v'tachat te'enato ve'ein machrid. Each person shall sit under his vine and fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. Both the vine and the fig tree are on the list of 7 species that Deuteronomy says are native to the land of Israel. The vine is a symbol of being settled in the land, as it takes time and proximity to tend to the growing grapes. The fig tree stands apart with its large leaves that offer shade and thus the incentive to sit outside, even if it is hot. The verse symbolizing peace among nations was also one of George Washington's favorites, which he cited in his farewell address in 1796. As an American Jewish community, we also mark Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday this weekend. Remembering Martin Luther King's legacy is to appreciate his legacy of nonviolence as a guiding principle. Nonviolence meant a lot of marching, most famously from Selma to Montgomery in 1965. The marches of the civil rights movement were often punctuated with music. Many of these songs came, of course, from the Negro spiritual tradition, and like Shirat Hayam, resonated with marchers because of their association with God's redemptive power. One example is Go Tell It on the Mountain, whose origins lay in the Nativity story. Later, it was combined with the lyrics of Let My People Go to become a standard of the movement, for it now spoke about the pursuit of freedom in God's name and spreading the message of that liberation near and far. A standard at memorial programs for Dr. King is Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is also known as the Black National Anthem. Written for what would have been Abraham Lincoln's 91st birthday in 1900, it is a song of faith and hope, a song of appreciating how the journey may be long, but most of all, it is a song about being true to God and this land. Perhaps the song most associated with the civil rights movement is We Shall Overcome. It is a song of immense hope, but also a call to action. Its roots are also in the tradition of the black church, but it was first sung in its current form as strikers walked the picket line in 1945. The great folk singer Pete Seeger changed the original lyrics from "We will overcome" to "We shall overcome," and added additional verses. Martin Luther King Jr. himself uttered these words when he gave an interfaith sermon at Temple Israel of Hollywood in 1965. On this Shabbat Shirah, let us use the recitation of Shirat Hayam as a springboard for considering how music can serve to strengthen our understanding of virtually any potent idea. Music can illustrate for us how our reliance on trees is not just about fruit or lumber. It is about illustrating through music how trees symbolize our values. Music can capture the essence of a moment, as the hymns of the civil rights movement showed that equality was not just a demand, but an aspiration rooted in hope and faith. And as exemplified in the Torah portion, music can create a new dimension through which we experience God as Creator and Redeemer. Let us appreciate all the ways that these melodies give us new perspective on the world. Shabbat Shalom. Our service continues now with the Elenu, which is found in your Siddur on page 586 at the bottom of the page. Please rise if you are able for the Elenu.
Elenu l'shabeach ladon hakol Latin gdula liotzer bereshit Shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot V'lo samanu k'mishpchot adama Shelo samech alakenu kahem V'gor aleinu k'chol amonam V'anachanu koreim U'mishtachavim u'modim Lifnei melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKaddish Baruch Hu V'nemar V'haya Adonai L'melech HaParetz V'yom Hahu V'yom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'shemo
Please be seated. As we prepare for the Mourner's Kaddish, I offer the words of 1 Kings chapter 19. Then the Eternal said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Eternal. Behold, the Eternal is about to pass by." And a great and mighty wind tore into the mountains and shattered the rocks before the Eternal, but the Eternal was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Eternal was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake there was a fire, but the Eternal was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still, small voice. In the last 2 weeks, we've been witnesses to 2 devastating residential fires. A fire in a row house in Philadelphia killed 12 people, 9 of them children. And then a few days later, a fire in a Bronx high-rise apartment building killed 17 people. There are no words to describe the grief of these tragedies, which wiped out entire families and transformed communities overnight. There is only, after the fire, the still, small voice. The still, small voice which calls upon us to offer comfort and compassion. The still, small voice that demands we practice fire safety in our homes and teach it to our children. The still, small voice that weeps when beautiful children die so senselessly. With the memories of our own loved ones We remember the victims of these fires. We honor the bravery of the firefighters who stepped into the flames to save lives. And we mourn this immeasurable loss. This Shabbat, we remember those for whom we are in the Shloshim 30-day period of mourning. Sharon Kramer, cousin of Doug Falk. Louis Eichen, father of Richard Eichen. Robert Breitstein, remembered by Lyle and Muriel Breitkopf. Brenda Gottfried, remembered by Emily Steinberg. Marion Hallam, mother of Nancy Walensky. Marjorie Weinberg, cousin of Wendy DeSanti. Jean Kapp, remembered by the Steiner family. Jeffrey Rosenfeld, cousin of Joy Furshine. Howard Schlechtman, brother of Andrew Schlechtman. And Joan Chellemer, mother of Mark Chellemer. We remember as well those whose yahrzeits occurred this week. Helene Bernstein, Rebecca Blum, Chick Chaikin, Lincoln Isaiah Duguid, Leonard Ehrlich, Joyce E. Graber, Sylvia Greenberg, Barry Gross, Howard Gutman, Robert Heischober, Elodie N. Henschel, Charles Ingber, Philip Kirsch, Charles P. Nieder, Michael Kozaradsky, Max Lazarus, Charlotte Lehman, Henry Lehman, Frederica Bunny Levinson, Elsa Loeb, Donald McNamara, Helen Portman, Leonard Rellis, Francis Rosenberg, Samuel Rosenfeld, Mitchell Rosenthal, Nellie Sandler, Jonathan Mark Sirota, Susan Kagan Sherman, Julia Sturman, Alan Taxerman, Nizabi Veach, Julius Warshaw, and Sidney Weber. And we remember the names of 6 of the 6 million who perished in the Holocaust. Gittel Reich of Hungary, age 56, Regina Fuchs of Czechoslovakia, age 50, Helen Laufer of Czechoslovakia, age 54, Maurițiu Sporn of Romania, age 54, Sari Adler of Hungary, age 52, and Ella Weiss of Hungary, age 52. We remember them all. We take them into our hearts with our own as we turn now to page 598, and we join together for the Mourner's Kaddish. Please rise if you are able for the words of the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'yizman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam u'l'olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei d'kudsha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alenu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. Please be seated. It is my pleasure at this time to call upon Marty Bresnick, a member of our Board of Trustees, to offer Shabbat greetings and announcements. Marty.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our Shabbat Evening Service. On Monday, January 17th, I hope you'll zoom in at 6:30 p.m. for the 93rd birthday celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The theme for the event, moderated by ABC TV's Anthony Johnson, is No Vote, No Voice, No Power. Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman is the guest speaker. There will be entertainment as well as awards for members of our Teaneck community. A link to the online page is in your weekly Temple Emeth email. On Tuesday, January 18th, our Movies That Mattered series continues with Deconstructing Harry. This Woody Allen film from 1997 tells the story of Harry Block, a successful writer who has turned his family and friends' lives into fodder for his books. Due to his novel's popularity, the school that once kicked Harry out has asked him to return for a ceremony to honor him. The cast includes Robin Williams, Judy Davis, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Kirstie Alley. Showtime is at 7:30 p.m. The Temple Emeth Book Group will meet on Thursday, January 20th, to discuss The Third Daughter by Talia Connor. This book tells the story of Batya, a trusting young woman lured from Russia and forced into prostitution in Buenos Aires during the late 19th century. The group will meet at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. Also on Thursday, you can start placing online orders via Shul Cloud for this year's Shalach Manot. Members of Temple Emeth can send Purim wishes and kosher goodies to other local members, religious school families, and temple staff. Each gift will cost only $5. An online tutorial for this new program will be held Thursday night at 7:30 on Zoom. Details are in your weekly email. On Saturday morning, January 29th, Temple Emeth will not be holding its own Shabbat service. Instead, Temple members are encouraged to attend virtually the Shabbat morning service of the 2022 Adult Study Shabbaton, which begins that day at 10 a.m. The service will be led by the clergy team of Temple Emeth in Bloomfield and will include guest darshan Lisa Lisser, Vice President at Jubilee Law. Check your weekly email next week for Zoom and YouTube links. Please note the Temple Emeth's Mishaberach and Yortzeit names will be recited that Shabbat only on Friday, January 28th. Rabbi Serbu will lead Torah study on Zoom as usual that morning, but will end at 9:50 to accommodate the earlier start time of the service. Finally, please join the next Biachad breakfast on Saturday, January 30th at 10:30 a.m. The speaker at this hybrid event will be Shira Pomerantz from Project Sarah. A presentation will be held in the social hall with a modified bagel breakfast. The presentation will be simultaneously Zoomed for viewing at home. This program is part of this year's One Book, One Synagogue program. Thank you to this evening's volunteers in the live stream control booth. Michael and Gail Goldberg are at the controls tonight. Shabbat Shalom.
Well, we are ready to move to our closing song, and as we do, I want to thank Ida Jean Fisher, who's going to sing our closing song, as well as Sam Groner, who sang some of the music earlier in the service, for representing Kol Emet. We're disappointed we couldn't hear from Kol Emet tonight, but I'm looking forward to rescheduling that and hearing all the music that they worked so hard over the last several weeks to prepare for Shabbat Shira. Our closing song can be found in Mishkan Tefillah on page 677. Oh, it's a duet. I wrote down that it's a duet, but somehow I forgot. It's the cantor and Ida Jean together leading us in singing "O Guide My Steps."
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps and help me make each day a song of praise to you. Rock me in my arms and guide my steps.
Elenu,
a wonderful way to conclude our service. I'd like to thank Tom Mustachio, our accompanist, for his role in beautifying this evening's service for Shabbat Shirah. If you are watching us on live stream, now is your final opportunity to post something in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. Perhaps you want to wish Mazel Tov to Andrew Arroyo on his conversion to Judaism, or Yasher Koach to any of the temple members who've shared of their talent this evening on the Bima. For those of us here in the sanctuary, we have an Oneg Shabbat waiting for us. I just want to remind you that our temple policy does permit you to take your mask off while you're eating and drinking at the Oneg, but especially with Omicron, I'm going to ask you to keep your mask on whenever you're not eating or drinking, and we can still chat at the Oneg in that way. And finally, with that said, we conclude our service by turning to one another and saying, Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.